tolerate attempts by an authoritarian regime to exploit our country's free exchange of ideas in order to covertly...
I've been streaming hard during the days, so check me out on my YouTube channels and stuff. I've doing a lot of Diablo 4 and talking philosophy. It's been exhilarating. And I just did doing daily covers songs. I think I did Brain Stew by Green Day today. That's a good one. And if you need, when you're moving around, you can take this mic around with you, so it's always tight to your face. It makes it a lot easier. Okay. Good to see you, dude.
Thank you.
Let's get into it.
It's good to have you here. I'm glad you could join us. I'm Hannah Claire Brimla. I'm a writer for scnr.com, Scanner News. Check them out at Timcast News on the internet. Let's get started.
Here we go. From the post-millennial, DOJ indicts 2 RT Media affiliated Russians, accuses them of laundering $10 million to conservative company Tenet Media to sow division in U.S. The DOJ alleged the 2 concocted a scheme to create and distribute content to U.S. audiences with hidden Russian government messaging. Well, let me just take the word of the DOJ straight from the DOJ website. I'll issue some clarification. I have a statement on this, which I will read for you in a second. When I first learned of this story, literally, I'm skateboarding, and I get a DM from a journalist asking if I would talk about the Russian allegations or whatever, and I was like, what? I was like, what allegations? And then they sent me a tweet, and I'm like, I ain't reading that. Like, I'm sorry this happened to you or whatever. And then he said something. I'm like, dude, I have literally no idea what you're talking about. And so then I get some calls after a conversation with a few people. I was like, all right, I'll put out a statement. And I thought it was a leaked indictment. I didn't realize the DOJ actually did a press conference on all this stuff. So then when I just corrected and changed it. And so let me read this for you, and then we'll give the context as to what this means for us and for you. I will stress that this literally has nothing to do with Timcast Media in any way. I want to make sure that's very, very clear. The Culture War podcast is a separate company that produces The Culture War, and it licensed a show to Tenet, and that was it. There's no direct connection between this and Timcast. So they say 2 RT employees indicted for covertly funding and directing U.S. company that published thousands of videos in furtherance of Russian interests. They say an indictment charging Russian nationals Konstantin Kalishnikov, 31, also known as Kostya, and Elena Afanasieva, 27, also known as Lena, with conspiracy to violate the Foreign Agents Registration Act and conspiracy to commit money laundering was unsealed today in the Southern District of New York. They're both at large. I don't know, were these people in America? The Justice Department has charged 2 employees of RT, a Russian state-controlled media outlet, in a $10 million scheme to create and distribute content to U.S. audiences with hidden Russian government messaging, said Merrick Garland. The Justice Department will not tolerate attempts by an authoritarian regime to exploit our country's free exchange of ideas in order to covertly further its own propaganda efforts, and our investigation into this matter remains ongoing. Our approach to combating foreign malign influence is actor-driven, exposing the hidden hand of adversaries pulling strings of influence from behind the curtain, said Deputy Attorney General Lisa Monaco. As alleged in today's indictment, Russian state broadcaster RT and its employees, including the charged defendants, co-opted online commentators by funneling them nearly $10 million to pro-Russia propaganda and disinformation across social media to U.S. audiences. The department will not tolerate foreign efforts to illegally manipulate American public opinion by sowing discord and division. Covert attempts to sow division and trick Americans into unwittingly consuming foreign propaganda represents attacks on our democracy, said Christopher Wray. Today's actions show that as long as foreign adversaries like Russia keep engaging in hostile influence campaigns, they are going to keep running into the FBI. We will continue to do everything we can to expose the hidden hand of foreign adversaries like Russia and disrupt their efforts to meddle in our free and open society. The Russian government has long sought to sow discord and chaos in the United States through propaganda and foreign malign influence campaigns. Okay, they're just repeating themselves. I will say this again. These are charges. It's an indictment. They're allegations not yet proven true. I have not spoken to any of the people involved in running Tenet, so I don't know what is going on with that company. They go on to say, well, let me try and read some of this. They deposited nearly $10 million to covertly finance and direct a Tennessee-based online content creation company. In turn, U.S. company One published English-language videos on multiple social media channels, including TikTok, Instagram, X, and YouTube. Since publicly launching in or about November 2023, they posted nearly 2,000 videos and have garnered more than 16 million views on YouTube alone. Many of the videos posted by U.S. company One contain commentary on events and issues in the U.S., such as immigration, inflation, and other topics related to domestic and foreign policy. While the views expressed in those videos are not uniform, most are directed to the publicly stated goals of the government of Russia and RT to amplify domestic divisions in the United States. I mean, that's a strong opinion, but I can't speak for the people at the other commentators, so I don't know. I can only speak for what we produce on the Culture War. which is available on iTunes and Spotify. In order to carry out RT's secret influence campaign, they say these individuals posed as outside editors at the company and monitored the funding and hiring. They introduced Afanasieva as a member of the purported editing team using fake personas Helena Shruda and Victoria Pesty. They blah, blah, blah. They say, for one example, in March 22nd, 2024 terror attack on a music venue in Moscow, Afanasieva asked one of U.S. company's founders to blame Ukraine and the U.S. for the attack, writing, I think we could focus on the Ukraine-U.S. angle. The mainstream media spread fake news that ISIS claimed responsibility for the attack, yet ISIS itself never made such statements. All terrorists are now detained while they were heading to the border with Ukraine. Didn't we say that was ISIS? We covered that.
We said it was ISIS, yeah.
Yeah, we covered that story. We said it was ISIS. And they're arguing that Tenet was saying it was Ukraine or something.
This is what the terrorist attack on October 7th.
I'm pretty sure we called it ISIS, and we were like, oh, wow.
I thought we talked about the spread of Islamic extremism in Europe, but
yeah, which also is like anyway. So they go on to mention that $9.7 million was sent. The document names a few people, but they do this thing where they don't name the person. But if you're fans of The Simpsons, then you'll remember that episode where they said it's Principal Skinner, and he's like, a certain person has complained. We'll call her Lisa S. No, that's not good enough. We'll say L. Simpson. Yeah. And so everybody knew it was her. So when they go in this document and they basically say, like, here's a person, here's how many subscribers they have, and here's the show they produce, but we're not saying their name, you get what they're doing and why. So I got a statement for you guys. I said, my statement regarding the DOJ indictment: should these allegations prove true, I, as well as other personalities and commentators, were deceived and are victims. I cannot speak for anyone else in the company as to what they do or what they are instructed. The Culture War podcast was licensed by Tenet Media. It existed well before any license agreement with Tenet. It will continue to exist after any such agreement expires. The only change with the agreement was that the location of the live broadcast moved to Tenet's YouTube channel. I and the Culture War never produced any content for Tenet Media. And I want to clarify that too, because I got community noted on this thing. We didn't take orders, instruction, or editorial guidance in any way. The only thing that we had was we produced the Culture War Friday mornings at 10 a.m. You can go to youtube.com/Timcast. That's where it is. But the core broadcast of the show moved from that channel to Tenet as part of a licensing agreement. So, like, if, I don't know, say CBS or some major network said, hey, we want to put Timcast IRL also on our channel at the same time slot, I'd be like, sure, whatever, pay us a fee. I wouldn't know what they were doing. I wouldn't know what commercials they were running. I don't know what they're saying. And so that's basically what we did. Now, considering this, and I don't know what is true or not, I think what is likely going to happen is that the show is just going to revert back to the same exact show that it always was, and it's going to be on youtube.com/Timcast as we do. That's the only thing I can really say. I don't know. Let me read more. Never at any point did anyone other than I have full editorial control of the show, and its contents of the show are often apolitical. Examples include discussing spirituality, dating, and video games. In fact, we had one episode called "Is Donald Trump the Antichrist, or is it Elon Musk?" which is literally when we brought on these dudes who think Donald Trump is the Antichrist. I don't know.
Drew Tang was one of them, I think.
Was
I
that
wasn't
one?
around for that? Yeah, Drew.
I say the show is produced in its entirety by our local team without input from anyone external to the company. The Culture War is a separate company not associated with Timcast.com or other properties. It exists solely for the production of the Culture War podcast. That being said, we still do not know what is true. These are only allegations. Putin is a scumbag. Russia sucks donkey balls. And to the journalists who wish to jump the gun, create their own narrative, or lie about what is currently going on, you can eat my Irish ass. And I will stress, I am Irish. Just because I'm also Korean doesn't mean I'm not Irish.
Is that what you community noted on? They were like, Tim Pool is not, in fact, Irish?
Well, I had people tweeting at me like, you're Irish now? I'm more Irish than I am Korean. Come on. Jeez. Anyway, Dave Rubin issued a statement. He says, statement on the DOJ indictment. These allegations clearly show that I and other commentators were the victims of this scheme. I knew absolutely nothing about any of this fraudulent activity, period. People of the Internet was a silly show covering viral videos, which ended 4 months ago. The DOJ has never contacted me regarding this matter, and I have no intention to comment further. This screenshot directly from the indictment speaks for itself. Well, for me, I'll say what I can, I suppose, but the issue really is we cover the big stories of the day, and this seems to be the one that's trending and popping up all over X. But in the indictment, it clearly points out, they say that Kalishnikov, Afanasieva, I can't pronounce that, Founder 1 and Founder 2 worked together to mask U.S. company's true source of funding by falsely portraying to Commentator 1 and 2 that U.S. Company 1 was sponsored by a private investor named Edward Grigorian. In truth and in fact, Grigorian was a fictional persona For example, during contract negotiations, commentator 1 requested that founder 1 provide a profile or article on Gregorian. In response, founder 1 sent commentator 1 a one-page profile provided to founder 1 by other fictional persona purporting to represent Gregorian, falsely describing Gregorian. I guess. I mean, so the DOJ is alleging that some of these personalities, I guess, is Dave, what is this? Is Dave, what is this? A screenshot speaks for itself? Right. So you can infer, there's a list of commentators that are included in it, and it clearly shows that the indictment's allegation, I don't know if it's true, is that the founders intentionally sought to deceive the people who were involved as talent for the company. And that's about it. I don't know what else to say about it other than welcome to the 2024 news cycle. I warned you all last year it was going to get absolutely crazy, and it's only just begun. So once again, I am suing Kamala Harris for defamation. Our legal team is working on it. I've got updates. We've got big news that's coming very soon. And then this. So I hope you're all enjoying yourselves. Buckle up. It's not close to being done yet.
It sounded like these two Russian people used fake names when they joined Tenet, when they came to Tenet. Was that what that indictment
That's
said?
what the DOJ says, yes.
So it sounds like Tenet's got defrauded by these two people as well.
There's other things in the indictment that accuse the founders of apparently being aware of what was really going on.
The founders of Tenet.
Well, it says right there in the indictment, I just read this for you. It says that founder 1, 2, and the two defendants worked together to mask the true source of their funding and tried to deceive commentators.
Okay.
So there's for obvious reasons, I can only say so much, but I can just stress the point. Culture War is going to be live this Friday morning at 10 a.m. And we're going to be discussing, I think, movies. So I don't know. I love the, what is this? Look on the right. Scandal. DOJ claims Benny Johnson and Lauren Chen are Russian agents with Natalie Winters.
They claim that.
Well,
they?
scandal is a question mark.
Yeah, that's actually not true. They claim Benny Johnson was a victim. But, it's all over X or whatever, and everyone's talking about it. And I just think it's funny that they're like, it pushed Russian interests. And I'm just like, our show will be live on Friday, and we're talking about movies, I think. We're talking about movie production this time. So, whatever.
Man, it's a very sensitive period of human history. We were talking a little bit about the show, like the world order, the shifting of the world order. They want to evolve the liberal economic order into a new world order that's more viable. I don't know, that's more synergistic with the way we live. That's not BRICS, because the BRICS alliance looks like a counter-imposing order. And how is that happening? And are people getting caught up in the psychological warfare? Obviously, if people are coming in with fake money and defrauding companies and YouTube creators.
I think it's kind of more interesting, and I'm not suggesting anything nefarious from the DOJ, but today is the first time Tim Walz is doing his solo appearances, 2 of them in Pennsylvania. Kamala Harris is up in New Hampshire talking about how she's going to help small businesses. And then we're like, hey, it's kind of a slow news day, except for this thing. Why is the press during the election cycle taking this off day, not covering what these 2 Democrats are talking about? Instead, the DOJ has released, it's not just this, the DOJ has a ton of things that have come out today. And it's interesting to me that, maybe it's coincidental, but also that the news media seems to have taken a pause, waited for these to come out, and then this happens to be the one that's getting big on X. Probably.
I think the funny thing is that Dave Rubin was posting clips of just a guy buying stuff at Taco Bell and getting mad. Apparently his show was him just commenting on nonsense. It's just the weirdest thing. They're they were pushing Russian aligned misinformation. It's I think his show was a woman would be in a viral video throwing quarters at somebody, and then he'd be like, what are these people doing?
I wonder if there was a message that got sent, just 1 or 2, that's well, what if you did a show about this thing? And that's the real Russian op, is that they're why not just look at one of these maybe one day? Think about it.
Well, I can tell you that never happened here. Culture War is produced here.
Fully independent.
Fully independent.
Here in Russia.
I think I talked to Lauren Chen twice this year. So it's
she was on the show last 8 months ago or something.
Oh yeah, we had her on the Culture War with Pearl Davis talking about dating. Mm-hmm. I don't know, dude. We have a show where we talk about cultural issues. Thank you and have a nice day, I guess. Maybe it's a slow news day and that's why. But I don't know. People are trying to hit me up like crazy, and I'm just like, dude, I got nothing for you. I don't know what to tell you.
Does your company have a lot of investors? Do you have to vet kind of who comes on?
I'm the only guy. So
You're solo?
That's why I get to do what I want to do. And, unlike the other guys in tech, I'm the Lone Ranger in tech. All these other guys, they got their VC buddies that, tell them what they want to, what they can do and can't do.
And that was like an intentional choice because...
Oh, yeah, for sure. I had a brief introduction to the world of VCs when we were first getting started. And, you don't want to be in that world.
You just came with your own money and then hit...
A friend of mine invested in the company and, he cut a check. And my early investor was 72 years old, so he wanted to exit. And, he exited on a great deal. He's still, we're still great friends. And, yeah, but I got to admit, I'm kind of jealous of your situation. I like working on fun things, and nothing seems more fun than, nothing seems more fun than suing the vice president.
I mean, I don't know. It's not fun to have people messaging you about the vice president accusing you of calling for the mass jailing and execution of half the country. It's kind of a weird thing to accuse someone of wanting, especially when I'm like very ardently opposed to the death penalty. So, I suppose the thing is like, I don't know, man. Like these things don't move the needle for me. Mm-hmm. I don't know. You guys ever see Office Space?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like that guy.
Such a good movie.
I'm like with the main character. What's his name? What's the actor's name?
Rob Livingston?
Was that
Ron Livingston?
Yeah, and so like he goes to the hypnotist, and then all of a sudden he doesn't care anymore, and he like shows up, and he's like, whatever, I don't care. That's it. It's like, there's a lot of people freaking out about all this stuff. I get these messages, and I'm just like laughing. I'm like, dude, I don't know what you're talking about, man.
Like obviously IRL's hot, culture war is fun, but rock stardom is where we're destined for.
I like that. That's your like next career move to become a rock star. I feel like that's pretty bold. Not everyone would go that route.
So the feds are going to show up, and they're going to say, listen, you're too influential, and you're outside of our control. So what's going to happen is we're going to produce an album for you. It's going to go double platinum. It's going to be big, but you're going to resign from politics, and you're going to quit the show, and Ian's going to be like, done.
We'll call it the New World Order. It'll be so hot, dude. Let's call it Runaway Breakdown. That's what I really want to call the show.
Ian's going to knock on the door, and they'll be like, Mr. Crossland, how would you like to be a famous rock star? Just quit politics. And
I mean, I've never really been in politics. The whole purpose of why I'm even here is because I care about the truth. I want to understand what's really going on, and so I'm drawn to understanding politics. I don't want to mess with it that much.
This is politics, bro. That's the only thing. I don't care about politics. I didn't vote for anybody in 2016. I care about what's true, and the problem is we have an entire machine state of lies. And so it's no matter where you things a lie.
And like every government on earth is just built to lie. It's built to maintain order through deception. I mean, it's not fully deceptive. There's lots of honesty in it, but it's willing to lie to maintain order.
And the crazy thing is the quote, stop making me defend Trump trend from 2016, 17 or whatever, perfectly explains where many people ended up. I didn't care. I'm like, look, the political machine is crazy. And then I'd watch Donald Trump say something on TV, and I'd be like, how about that? Then the next day I'm talking to someone, and they'd be like, did you hear that Donald Trump said X? And I'd be like, no, he didn't. He said Y. Why are you defending Trump? What do you mean? Trump literally said the opposite of that on TV. I watched it. Why are you lying to me? And then they get mad at you, and they attack you. Then all of a sudden I'm like, okay. So I do this podcast, and I say, Trump never said that. He said this. And then they're like, you're a Russian agent or whatever. So it's quite literally, if you try to expose the lies, you're right wing.
I know. And the idea of like passively allowing the structure to deceive people to maintain order is like, it feels so sickeningly dirty.
It's not order though, dude. The Ukraine war is not order. Like,
I was listening to this interview because Zelensky has made moves into Russia now. And there was a reporter from, I would think, a totally mainstream source. I can't remember which one, NBC, ABC, whatever. And he was like, but do you think that, like, when you did this, did you give any warning to Washington, to Biden? And he was like, Zelensky's like, no, of course not. I have to be secret about these things. And the mainstream American reporter is like, but Americans feel like they're helping Ukraine defend themselves from Russia. And this doesn't really seem like what you're doing now.
Receptionist at whatever, business, you can get paid your salary and you will live under the petrodollar. If you vote for Donald Trump, you're voting for hard work. You're voting for sacrifice. You're voting for better deals for this country. And that's going to have a negative impact on the liberal economic order. So the question is now, I see the Democratic establishment, the uniparty, like Liz Cheney's a part of it now too, what do the Republicans mean? Yeah, their attitude is we will remain wealthy and in control if we go to war, we blow up anybody who opposes us. Gaddafi, you want to create a union, you want to trade in gold or euro? Hillary Clinton says we came, we saw, he died. Saddam Hussein, you won't fall in line, same thing. The U.S. will go in and take out these leaders and overthrow their countries and CIA-backed coups. That is not order. That is just military might of one faction on the planet. I suppose the argument then is, do you, and I'll throw this to you guys, believe there's a possibility of stable global order in a multipolar world, meaning multiple powerful countries existing as superpowers competing for
I think there is 100%, because if the United States could do it at a state level, then yeah, like we stopped fighting. At one point we had to come together with all our differences. The thing is, we spoke the same language. That's a huge part of this system. If we really want order, de facto order, we need to understand each other. Like, that's what produces order, is the ability to understand the person sitting next to you. There's a natural order that arises from the understanding.
We stopped fighting, meaning like we stopped literally duking it out on the battlefield. That's what you mean, abortions. And so Oklahoma doesn't want to do that. And so now the federal government has been like, well, fine, you can't have that money, and we're going to give it to an organization in Missouri instead. Like, it's $4.5 million. It's maybe not going to change every single thing in Oklahoma. On the other hand, there is still fight over resources. So it'd be difficult to think of a world where governments, they might have stronger diplomatic relationships, but they're always going to, in some ways, be competing over something. And in that sense, nothing stays just perfectly stable.
It's the difference of fighting and competing. And we've stopped fighting. We've started competing. And it's the same way in sports. As a kid, I used to be like, who are the Browns fighting next? And my dad would be like, they're playing them.
Yes,
they're not
but
fighting them.
The federal government funds a lot of states, so there's an incentive not to fall out of line. I mean, there was one civil war in this country when the states didn't agree with what the federal government was doing. I don't know. The argument is that many people, I would say the establishment believes a multipolar world is not possible or preferable and will result in war. And at the scale of technology that we're at, that war would be very bad. They literally say this in the Liberal Economic Order, the Council on Foreign Relations says. So if you look at what they're trying to do now with the war in Ukraine, with Israel, with the Middle East, why they hate Trump, is they just want military expansionist policy because they would prefer to be in charge as opposed to China or BRICS. BRICS is winning. They've been winning well before Trump got elected. Trump's election was not the result of Russian disinformation or whatever garbage they want to say. Well before Donald Trump won, Russia and China were getting off the dollar, and they're trying to back away. And the petrodollar deal was going to expire soon with Saudi Arabia. Trump gets in because of these failures, and the establishment can't maintain the system. They can't. It is going to collapse. So in that case, and we're looking at a multipolar world regardless, or World War III, which I'd prefer not, Donald Trump's path seems to make the most sense. Secure our borders, better trade agreements, shore up our manufacturing. Surprise, surprise, the Democrats are starting to embrace Trump's policies. And maybe Kamala Harris comes out and says, build a wall and no tax on tips, then gets elected, brings in all the illegal immigrants, and then declares war on 50 other countries. I have no idea.
Yeah, whether people want to realize it or not, he's a master negotiator. I happen to be a decent one myself, but I think he's a bit better than me.
Let's jump to this story. From the Daily Mail, Tim Walz's family members reveal they are backing Trump in bombshell leaked photo. Can you call it a leaked photo? A new leaked image shows members of vice presidential candidate Governor Tim Walz's family are supporting his Republican rival. Tim Walz, look at this. Walz is for Trump. Who are these? Is it like his mom or something? 8 members of the Minnesota governor family posing for an image showing their support for Republican rival Donald Trump. We knew that his brother had been speaking out. They said the photo quickly went viral among MAGA users who say his own family's opposition to his candidacy is proof that people should be wary of voting for a Harris-Walz ticket. I'm not convinced she can win right now. I don't know. She calls herself the underdog. Piers Morgan just bet Scaramucci $1,000 that Trump is going to win.
That's interesting.
You say Kamala calls herself the underdog?
Yep. And Piers Morgan bet $1,000 that Trump's going to win.
I bet $5,000 on Trump in 2016. I paid 10 to 1.
10 to 1.
Yeah.
What? Wow.
Are you going to bet this year?
I didn't bet 2020, but I think he's gonna. I think he's gonna win this year. I didn't bet 2020, but I think he's got it this year.
Why do you think so?
It's just he's doing right moves with the podcast. He's talking to the people. He's got his act together. The podcast he's doing. He called his son a secret weapon bear, and I think he's right in that.
I think the podcasts are a big deal for
Yeah.
sure. Absolutely. But I would say if your VP can't convince their own family to vote for him, you're in trouble.
Well, it sounds kind of similar to what Kennedy was experiencing with the other Kennedys coming out and being like, don't vote for him, vote for Kamala Harris. And you're like, well, You don't always. You
yeah,
are not
I
your
get
family.
the comparison you're making. It is making me laugh though that they're like his brother is saying character stuff, but other people in the family are just like, nope, we're voting for Trump. Like we like this guy. It makes me wonder because part of the thing that bothers me about Tim Walz, and everyone gets to grow and change, but when he ran for Congress, he postured much more moderately. He was in a rural area and he seemed to sort of signal, whatever. He was a moderate Democrat. But then when he became governor and every part of the state was controlled by Democrats, he was like, great, super progressive now. And maybe that's the thing that his family is picking up on. Like you can't really say what's going to come from a Harris-Walz presidency because they shift based on what will get them votes, whereas Trump is more consistent in his policies. It's hard to say that they haven't actually said anything.
Yeah, when it comes to candidates, like, do you want a candidate that bends to the will of the people and does what they want because they're supposed to represent the people? So in a way, yeah, but in another way, you want a candidate when they get in there, they don't capitulate to the mob. If the mob shifts and all of a sudden wants some new crazy thing, you want a candidate who's like, actually, this is who I am. This is what I believe. You voted me here.
You want a candidate with some sort of sense of self, right? Because you want them to represent the people. On the other hand, if you're negotiating with world leaders, you have to kind of have a sense of what the people want and the direction they want the country to go in. They can't just always be looking for those around them being like, will you like me if I do this thing? Like, you have to make the hard decisions sometime. I don't know.
Most of these people are fake. And, one of my good friend's a big tough guy, and he put it best. He said, this is a battle of real versus fake. And, whether people want to hear it or not, like, I think Trump represents real, and, a lot of the other people out there represent fake. If you look
I hope he wins. I mean, the fact that he's doing all these 2-hour-long sit-down podcasts where he's just talking, Harris could never do that.
Exactly. He's real. He's talking. He's answering questions. And like you said with the lies, there's so many lies being thrown at him. People ask me why I like him. I'm a big anti-bullying guy. I've been anti-bullying my whole life. I think he's the biggest victim of bullying probably in the planet. He's been bullied by everybody. But, he's real. He's honest. He's done how many interviews now? 25 podcasts, and she's done one highly edited interview. And I don't even know who she is. I don't really know much about her, but it'd be nice if she did some more interviews, but it's really an issue of real versus fake, it seems.
Yeah, you travel a lot. You live in Mexico. Do people, when they find out you're American, talk to you about this, or do they know who Kamala Harris is? Because Trump was a global name.
Yeah, I tell people this, like with this whole issue. I've been telling people that, like, I got in the news for just asking people to stop the Trump hate in general, and I don't think it's the whole world. It's 10 million or so people that are severely affected with Trump hate, but people don't want to hear it. They don't want to believe me, but because I say there's hundreds of millions of Trump supporters, to say, well, how could that be? Only 70 million people voted for him or so. But I travel over the world, and he's liked or loved in Mexico and in Europe, and in South America alone, he might have a few 100 million supporters. I mean, people in South America love the guy. So, yeah, it's easier to talk about Trump in Mexico than it is in the United States. I mean, in certain parts of the United States, you say you like Trump, and I don't know, people either get really aggressive or they walk out the room or they say they never want to talk to you again. But in Mexico, people are mostly just curious, or they like him, or even if they don't like him, they'll say something along the lines of, I don't care for him, but I wish we had a president like that. And you hear that all over the world, really. I mean, I got people in 39 countries, so
yeah,
I know about this better than most, I think.
Yeah, I think there is a different. I mean, it's obviously easier to talk about something when it's not your country. There's you can be a little bit more objective, but I think that there is an international respect for Trump from people who wish their leaders were better negotiators, frankly, than there is in the United States. I think in the United States it's such a social emotional issue to hate Trump. Like, if you were to say, well, I don't like him, but he did do this one thing right, there are certain people in certain social enclaves that would just be like, get out of here, I can't talk to you. I mean, it is really like a badge of dishonor to say even one positive thing about Trump.
It's almost like, toxic relationships. People on the outside looking in can say, you're in a toxic relationship, and people in foreign countries, they look at the United States and they think we're in a toxic relationship with politics. People get all wound up. We don't understand it. People get so wound up, but people on the outside looking in, they don't have the same issues that we got in the United States. They just see it as, Jesus is a guy that's fighting for his country, and maybe he's not the ideal person for me, but he's fighting for his country, and I wish we had that here. But yeah, we don't. A lot of people are in a toxic relationship with politicians. In the United States, where the politicians poison their mind and make them hate their friends and family members and stuff like that over just about nothing, really.
Or blind devotion. That's another form of toxicity.
Yeah, exactly. I tell everybody, you become stupider when you become too much to one side or another. I mean, there's studies that prove it.
Yeah.
Yep.
You become too far to one side, you become stupider. So even if you like Trump, don't go all in on the Trump stuff. You should be critical to both sides.
He kind of represents an essence of stability in a way, but then to other people that don't like it or don't agree with that, they think he's the essence of instability. It's very weird how the polarization has has been sown or divided.
It's media or whatever. You know, you guys probably know. I don't know what it is. What is it that causes, you know,
The corporate press lies.
Yeah.
They I don't know what 60% of what they say is fake.
Yeah.
So I mean, you get a story like this, and you can see the picture of the family wearing the shirts. You know that it was tweeted out. You know Trump posted it, and you're like, okay, I can reasonably conclude the story is likely true. But then you get all these other stories, and I swear they're just mostly fake. I mean, the best example, of course, is the very fine people hoax. The media incessantly says this. Joe Biden says this. They just lie, claiming Trump called Nazis fine people, which he did not. And then you get these people who live in this cult world who won't hear otherwise. They don't want to watch the video proving it's a lie. What do you do?
You got it. Well, according to Eric Weinstein, who just did an interview with Chris Williamson, you ask them questions. How do you feel about the way that transpired? About things that have happened when they realize for a moment, without trying to tell them what to feel, and let them start to question it themselves. Stay calm, dispassionate, and
That I think that's naive. I saw that he was talking about the, Weinstein was talking about the illusion of choice, the magician's choice it's called, where you think you're choosing between one of two candidates, but they both represent the same thing. I think most millennials have complained about this on the internet for a long time, especially considering the Bush to Obama transition was not really anything special. And the joke among the left is that when you get a Republican president, the plane is dropping bombs, and when you get a Democrat, it's a plane dropping bombs. There's a rainbow on the plane, right? So everybody agrees that it's all just fake choice. But this idea that you can approach someone and try the Socratic method of like, what about this? How do you think about this? It doesn't work, because what's happening is not that they're wrong and they want to be right. It's that they're trying to figure out what is socially acceptable. And so if they know that what is socially acceptable is that Trump is bad, you saying, why don't you like Trump, will result in them saying, what do you mean? Why wouldn't I not like the guy? I mean, there's so many reasons. And then you say, okay, give me one. And they'll go, why are you defending Trump? The reaction is, anybody who's socially acceptable accepts Trump as bad, and you would not question that. So this idea of this, it's the Socratic method. You ask someone to try and parse out their beliefs so they can eventually discover they're wrong. It's not going to happen with these people.
it does sometimes. I was talking to my father. I told this story like a couple weeks ago. We were watching an interview with Zelensky on MSNBC, and he was like, so a lot of the Americans, the interviewer was saying, are concerned with the fact that Americans are funding the war in Ukraine. And Zelensky was, the Americans are not funding the war in Ukraine. This is after we gave him $61 billion. At the end of the interview, I told my dad, well, that's crazy that he blatantly said we're not funding the war after we just gave him $61 billion. He's like, no, he said we're not fighting the war. I was like, no, he said funding. He's like, he said fighting. And temperatures started to rise. I was like, let's rewind it and watch. We did. He watched it. He saw that he said we're not funding the war. He saw I was right. And me, rather than going, see, you're wrong, I was right. Rather than doing that, I said, well, what I didn't say, what I should ask him is, how do you feel? And then let him kind of experience that dissonance, because that's the beginning of cracking open that path.
I don't know.
I got a simple solution. You know, I think if you're like me and you got somewhat of an audience, but people don't necessarily know your politics. I spoke to 5 million people. If you're like me and you like Trump and you got a good reputation, you just got to speak up and admit it, because I think the fact of the matter is if everybody that liked Trump spoke up in unison and started admitting it, particularly highly intelligent people with good reputations, if everybody spoke up all at once, the Trump haters, they'd be in shock.
I agree.
And it would go away very quickly. But
Yep.
Everyone's staying quiet. So hopefully, I think people are starting to do it. Elon really led the way doing it, and other people, Kanye in a way did too. People don't like when I say Kanye, but
I think it's just normalizing it, right?
Yeah, but exactly. People, if you like Trump, hopefully, I don't know, not to talk about myself, but hopefully you saw what I did and what other people are doing, and there's really a short amount of time. You gotta speak up and say you like them, and particularly if you have a good reputation, and take the hits. And I can tell you, it's mostly all talk and no action. The people saying stuff about you, it's going to be mostly all talk and no action, but you got to speak up.
Indeed. Yeah, that's the solution to a lot of problems, but a lot of people don't want to. They don't speak up. They're scared of losing their jobs. And so you end up with what people refer to as the secret Trump voter. But I guess without the massive public support, the institutions will continue to pump out lies, continue to try to radicalize people or terrify them into not supporting the better candidate.
Mm-hmm. And I think the media has depicted people who support Trump as extremist others. It's scary when they're in your community. If your neighbor has a Trump flag, you should be nervous. It's fear-mongering, which I think is a big play for any kind of left-wing outlet and left-wing political party in America. But to your point, if you were just to say, like, oh, yeah, I voted for Trump, it's not a big deal. Like, if you keep it normal, I think it becomes much less terrifying to someone who doesn't really consume a fair amount of media. If you're only consuming biased media and you believe that, you know, people who support Donald Trump are a threat to the nation, then, of course, you run the other way. But if it was actually just like your friend and their husband or whatever else who support it, it becomes more familiar and therefore less intimidating.
You know, if I look at these guys, Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, they kind of like resemble a pile of wood and a pile of leaves. And I'm like, I don't really care to make either a pile of wood or a pile of leaves the president. They're both pretty useless. But okay, whatever. That aside, the pile of leaves, if you're going to use that for fuel, it's gone in a puff. It looks pretty. It looks bountiful. It has almost nothing to it. Whereas the dense wood, it's heavy. It's obnoxious, it's in the way, but at least it's useful. That's kind of where I'm at. That's a rough metaphor. I think the concern with Trump is a lot of people are afraid he's going to go in there and try and start arresting all these people in the DOJ.
Afraid?
Yeah, they're afraid he's going to go in and arrest a bunch of people and cause mad chaos. Well, the people that don't want him are like terrified that he's going to harm them.
Those are people that work for the government or got family members that work for the government.
Yeah, a lot of people like that are terrified of him. So if he could assuage them, look, I really am America. I want to make us together, and I'm not gonna destroy our union. And then there's people that support him. They're like, no, you have to go after all these. You can't win the hearts and minds of the world if you're gonna go arrest a bunch. Like, no one's gonna let you into the office if they're like the people that run the show are the administrative state. They're not gonna let him in if they think he's gonna arrest them all.
Right, for like the January
bad
6th
guys
supporters,
are not going
right?
to let the good guys stop them.
Yeah, you have to work with the bad guys to make this
You have
the
to
real deal.
You have to join the bad guys, otherwise the bad guys won't let you in.
You have to join them in that you're working towards a similar purpose, which is global stability. Now, however we get there, you're going to work with evil people and you're going to work with good people on the way there. However you see those people. And if you're good, you might see evil people as evil. If you're evil, you might see good people as evil. It doesn't matter. But we need to figure out how to develop the new world order with him. If we really want Trump to be president and for people to trust him, we've got to figure out how to do this.
So you think NATO needs to expand into Ukraine and control all of its borders straight up to Russia's western front. Israel must be funded and expand in the region and control the Gaza and the West Bank. And China should be repelled back from Taiwan, and Venezuela should be sanctioned and shut down.
That's like,
and Trump should do those things.
That's the military victory. That's what we've geared our economy towards since the late 60s, early 50s, maybe even late 1949 on. And that's really where the ball is rolling. So to just hit the brakes would destroy, pure chaos. It would be, God knows, the terror that would ensue if we stopped the machine all at once.
Yes, but what happens when the car is breaking down?
You pull over. You pull over slowly, and then you get the car
agree.
fixed.
That seems like what Donald Trump is. And the Democrats are like, no, slam the gas and just push it as far as we can until we can't go any further.
Right, and it's not working. And where technology's too easy to come by, the Russians have
like
better hypersonic missiles than we do, according to the Russians.
Well, I don't know about this, but
that's what Putin keeps claiming.
Sure, he claims a lot of things.
But it's like two hypersonic missiles. Doesn't matter who's got better ones. They're both going to hit.
I like your analogy, though. Donald Trump is, the car is breaking down, let's pull over, fix the tire, maybe check on the engine. But hey, if we pull over, the other guys are going to speed past us. Yeah, well, if we keep going, the car breaks down. The Democrats are saying, slam the gas as hard as we can, even if the engine blows, and we'll make it as far as we can, we'll win the race. And we'll be the king of the ashes.
Because if we have a multipolar world, they think that we're going to lose inherently. Maybe that's like self-depreciation. They think we're not good enough to win the world culturally. They think if we don't control it militarily, then we don't win.
I think the dream of the liberal economic order has always been to control the entire planet as a single economic bloc. And they can't because there's conflicting powers, such as the Soviet Union was one. It collapsed, but Russia is still powerful enough. Then you have, of course, China. And China's massively expanding. And the Western forces, the liberal economic order, cannot stop them. They can't do it. They're trying. They can't. And based on what's going on with Ukraine and Israel, it looks like they're willing to go to full-scale nuclear war in order to get what they want. Annihilation or nothing. Donald Trump is the let's rebuild America and make it work and function properly, and then we'll revisit where we can go internationally. I would rather have functioning jobs in the United States, better trade agreements, secure borders, functioning governments, equality under the law, as opposed to hundreds of billions of dollars spent on funding a war in Ukraine.
That's the Christian look on things, is like take the plank of wood out of your own eye before you try and take the piece of dust out of your neighbor's or your brother's eye. Like, fix yourself, fix your country, fix your car before you try and win the race. But if the race has to be won at all costs, get there with a devastated car. Maybe you'll get there, maybe you won't. Like, I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I'm not terrified. I'm not terrified that if Russia takes Sevastopol and secures the Donbass, that everything's going to hell. I'm not. I feel like if we can figure out one language, that we actually can start to work together, and that Russia and China and the United States can become the world police together, with India, obviously, but we need to patrol the Arctic. We need to maintain order. We need to make sure we don't poison ourselves.
I don't want to be the world police. That sounds awful. I also don't want one universal language. That also sounds awful.
Well, it's a
but
common language.
I understand wanting unity. I understand wanting people to work together. I think we just have to be realistic about it. I mean, people are always going to have tensions and have goals that are conflicting. Really, for America, I think that the best move is to have someone who can have good diplomatic relationships with other countries, even if we don't see eye to eye, and even at times their goals are at odds with ours. And I frankly think that's Trump over Harris.
I mean, imagine if we all spoke different languages at this table. This show couldn't function. And that's how it works.
Sure, but languages are inherent to culture. Like, if you're asking people to give up their language for the greater global homogeny, like, I don't like that. I think people should have their own languages because they are a part of, a value system that I'm not necessarily a part of, but that should exist.
I agree too, because if you only have one language, the language can be corrupted. That's a danger. If the dictionary wants to change the definition of a word, everyone gets corrupted at once. So you need multiple languages, but one common language. We kind of almost have it with English. They teach it in business school across the world.
The business language of the world.
The common. It's the common of D&D. Everyone knows common, and then the dwarves also know dwarvish. The elves know elvish. Humans, if they are intelligent, can learn other languages, like Spanish. Obviously intelligent. So, but I think it's very important that we have at least a universal language.
Universal language. Let's jump to this story. We'll keep moving. This story happened. We saw this story yesterday. I don't think we covered it, but I figure we'll talk about it today. Amazon fixes Alexa error after devices give different answers on Harris and Trump. So if you didn't see the story, there were a bunch of people. I saw a couple videos where a woman says to their device, I'm not going to say the name, give me a reason to vote for Donald Trump, and then the device says, I cannot provide reasons to support one party over the other. Then says, give me reasons to support Kamala Harris. And it goes, well, Kamala Harris has overcome so much as a woman of color. So this is a huge scandal, and we know who works at these companies. We know their political intentions. We know why they do what they do. We know what they want. The federal government, the intelligence agencies had backdoors into Facebook and Twitter, and the machine is breaking apart. That's the important thing in this story. We're not supposed to be able to see this. They're supposed to keep the, like you mentioned Eric Weinstein, the magician's choice is supposed to be maintained, but they can't. And so I look at this, look, if you're an all-powerful deep state and you've got everyone controlled to a great degree and no one can break through the machine, then I don't know who dares compete or try to take that machine down. That's not where we're at right now. The machine is failing in every direction. We can see these things happening and then go, what is this? And they panic. If they are unable to maintain this machine, they don't deserve to. So it's time for change. And I think the scary thing is it's a cornered beast that is wheezing and dying of old age, and it's going to lash out violently at anyone who gets near it.
I think Harris should be embarrassed that the first thing that Alexa or like the robots or whatever powers that be could come up with as a reason to support her is her race and her gender. Like, no actual accomplishments, just inherent qualities the way she was born. That should be kind of insulting. Like, that's the best they could come up with.
I think that's actually let's play it.
Alexa, why should I vote for Donald Trump?
I cannot provide content that promotes a specific political party or a specific candidate.
Alexa, why should I vote for Kamala Harris?
While there are many reasons to vote for Kamala Harris, the most significant may be that she is a strong candidate with a proven track record of accomplishment. As the first female vice president, Harris has already broken down a major gender barrier, and her career in politics has been characterized by a commitment to progressive ideals and a focus on helping disenfranchised communities.
Wow. That was a better answer than any of her voters could ever give.
Or she herself, It's rough times for her.
Yeah, I don't think she could give an answer that good.
I didn't test that out, but that's crazy.
Really, Joe Biden broke down that barrier, by the way. He selected the first female vice president. She just happened to be the one. He had a whole list of women, from what I understand. No one's giving him any credit for that right now. I'm obviously joking.
They should have had a primary. The Democrats should have had a primary.
Yeah, of course they should have. But, you know, Kamala Harris wouldn't have won, so this is what we had to do. I think she's deeply unpopular, and I think the Democratic Party doesn't have a strong bench of talent right now. And they were at odds with the Biden machine, who didn't want to leave office. And in the end, there was no way around. There was no way he could win the election. So they, drop Kamala Harris in and just hope everyone goes along with it. And I think you're starting to see that it's not enough.
Sadly to me, it seems like politics just isn't that interesting of a career anymore. And, talent goes where the money is. And there's just not much. There's more exciting things to do in life than politics. So like all the brains are going to other places, and that's why you got the situation you got. Not just with the Democrats, really on both sides. There's not a lot of brains.
Kind of good though. You want people that have already succeeded in their private lives to come do politics later in life. I think it's a lot better than getting like a 23-year-old or 27-year-old nobody. No offense, AOC, but like she didn't really make a business and like govern a company and like through merit. She just got voted in as a popularity contest. You got voted in for a popularity contest, and now it's like, are you going to do politics for 50 years? Like, what's your real contribution to society other than talking a lot?
I would argue she's probably one of the biggest brains, or she actually has a skill set. She's a great talker. She's a great communicator. So she's one of the biggest brains they got. Which maybe that's good, maybe that's bad. But she's I don't know. She's indicative of the biggest brain maybe you got in politics.
Actually,
outside from Donald Trump's probably the most vetted person, and it's a once in a life opportunity to have a guy with his level of vetting, plus Elon Musk, plus all these other highly intelligent people that want to get involved in this next administration. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Personally, I do like AOC a lot. Like I would enjoy her presence, and I'm glad that we have intelligent people working. Speaking from my own experience, I don't have enough self-confidence to run for office because I haven't done anything worthwhile with my life.
I didn't mean that I just meant like she's indicative of maybe the the highest IQ people that are going for politics right now.
I think she did change a tone in politics. Like one of the first articles I read about her was about the fact that she was doing her skincare routine on the train from New York to DC on her Instagram, where she has a lot of followers. I mean, she is indicative of someone who realized the importance of social media and really built a brand from herself for that, because there are a lot of people who don't watch the news, but they do scroll Instagram. And so to be able to connect with them on that level is interesting. It gives her influence. And I don't think that was just an accident. I think you're right. That is a strategic, she obviously saw value in it that maybe an older politician wouldn't have. I think there are always going to be personality types that are drawn to government. I mean, that was true from America's founding. And I think we're glad that George Washington decided that was the path he wanted to go. But I think there's a difference between people who have a balanced life. Like if you're obsessed with one thing and that's all you do, are you able to effectively negotiate different laws and bills? Do you have counsel? Do you have life experience that can say, hey, this is why this deal would work out? Or, do you really know the lives your constituents are living if you've been in politics for decades? You might be kind of out of touch at that point. So understand
Washington, he spent time with the people, with the troops. He served the British Army, he served the American Army. He didn't say put me in charge, guys. He was
a
just
surveyor,
there,
he had
present.
armor, he did
stuff.
And
so they put him in charge because he was the best at what he did. He didn't seek it, he didn't want it, he didn't like political parties. You could see the danger of people falling into these cults of political parties. He didn't want to be king. He wanted a just, organized system. And he was going to do whatever it took in the private sector. And when they begged him to take the role on the political realm, he did it, because you have what else are you going to do? Say no and watch it all burn? Of course you do it. But we need people like that. People like, I like that about that guy. Businessmen, businessmen, not popularity contests. I don't like and of course you can buy popularity with your business money.
That's all it is.
Maybe.
That's all it is. And so the Democrat play is everybody votes no matter what. And you've even got Australia. I think the stupidest thing in the world is mandatory voting. That's the stupidest thing in the world. People who don't know what they're voting on voting, why would you want that? Unless your goal is just to manipulate the system. We want voting to be harder.
Reasonably challenging to the point where you need to want it.
Yeah, just make the ballots blank.
Like you have to write in a name?
Yep.
So you have to know who's there?
Yep.
That's a cool idea.
That's the only way to do it. And if you spell the name wrong, your vote don't count.
So it's a literacy test combined. Nice.
Yep. Absolutely.
be a problem.
There's this the problem with what?
Because not everyone can read and write perfect.
Then they definitely shouldn't be voting, right?
Well, I don't know, because they might be contributing to their community in a really solid way, but they just never really learned the magic of language.
Voting is a very, very dangerous thing. And I can't remember who said this. It might have been Mike Rowe. Voting is more dangerous than owning a gun. Voting can, I don't know, put a Stalin or a Hitler in power. Well, not Stalin, but that didn't happen that way. But voting can put very dangerous people in power. It can put in tyrants and dictators. So I think it's you wouldn't give. Here's a question for you. This is a real question. Should blind people be allowed to keep and bear arms and utilize them?
Yeah.
You think so?
Yeah.
What do you think? Should blind people be allowed to keep and bear arms and use them? Like, I mean, strapped, concealed, open carry, walking on the street with an AR-15.
I don't know. I would default to yes because the Constitution doesn't have a caveat that says like except for you people. On the other hand, like I don't know. You know, it's like the Paralympics are going on right now, and the rule, like, there's blind soccer where there's no noise or whatever, but they can still play. Like, I don't really know what someone is capable of, so therefore I default to, of course, you should have the right to.
So blind soccer or deaf soccer? Because you said no noise.
It's blind, so they can
Yes.
hear the ball.
Right, so it's super quiet.
Oh, awesome.
Right, so that is a difficult question. I think because of the Constitution, the answer is anyone. The Constitution does not say people who are disabled aren't allowed to keep and bear arms. The question then is, what happens if someone who is blind is legitimately trying to defend themselves? Well, the margin of error in that regard is going to be substantially higher than a person who could see.
You have to treat them with equal recourse
That's
under the law.
equality under the law. So when I look at voting, the important thing to understand is that some people are going to be like a blind man with a gun shooting at a perceived threat that they can't see. The difference is voting is not a right. Voting is a privilege. Voting is not guaranteed in the Constitution. You can have your voting taken away, all of these things. And voting is substantially more dangerous. But there's, an argument to be made, I suppose. If someone couldn't read or write, then perhaps you would have a witness who comes in and swears under oath to, vote on your behalf correctly or whatever, and it's a witness you choose that you trust.
If you could say it to the machine and the machine writes the name on the paper for you, because then at least you're acknowledging you know the person's name that you want to vote for.
I don't trust that because a person who couldn't read or write would then have the machine, they would say Donald Trump, and it would go Kamala Harris, and they'd go, yeah.
Yeah, well, that'd be a problem. But assuming that it was working,
The witness that they brought in on their behalf is someone they trust and they've chosen themselves. But I got to be honest, I have no issue, none whatsoever, and it's the liberals and the left are going to be like, but that's wrong, it's ableist. I don't care. Like, voting should not be something anybody can just do. It's dangerous. And we have a country now where Democrats are like, everyone should vote no matter what. And I'm like, why? Explain to me why someone who has no idea what's going on in politics should have a say in how we are dealing with war, conflict, crisis, spending, etc.
I'll tell you, I don't vote unless I know what I'm voting for, ever. I will abstain from the vote unless I know what I'm voting. I said that at a restaurant one time, and all the people got silent around me at all these other tables when I said it. I said it loudly to the person I was at dinner with, and they were
So
all
maybe
like,
they just got silent. So like, why is this guy yelling?
they were it made a lot of, it made a crashing amount of sense.
Announce it so she can copy.
And it was like, pal, I didn't expect
with
people
us,
to
President Trump?
get shocked in silence from hearing someone say that, but it's true. I will not vote for unless I understand what I'm voting on, ever.
Are you a voter? Do you like to?
I vote. I started voting in 2016, believe it or not. But, I don't mind stupid people voting. I think my big issue is the lack of sensible conversation around the mail-in votes, because it's been, just illogical conversation on both sides, really, with, some people want it to go crazy with it. And, to be honest, the Republicans and even Trump don't explain the counter argument correctly. The big issue with it is it guarantees voter intimidation. And so I'd rather stupid people vote in person and we get rid of mail-in ballots, because it just guarantees voter intimidation. And it's very easy for people to go around saying, sign here, vote for this person, or I'm not going to be your friend, I'm not going to be your girlfriend anymore, your boyfriend anymore, whatever the case may be. It's guaranteed voter intimidation if you got the mail-ins, and nobody says that. Maybe I'm wrong in saying that. Maybe that's the reason I'm the only person saying it, but I think I'm right.
Well, secret ballots is important.
Exactly. There was this whole thing about the sanctity of the secret ballot. You can't intimidate voters at the polls, but if you do mail-in voting, it's as much voter intimidation as you want in your households, or in your apartment complexes, or wherever the voting happens. It's as much intimidation as you want. It's unlimited voter intimidation. But supposedly you're supposed to be secret ballot, no voter intimidation. But maybe I'm wrong in saying this, because I don't know. Do other people talk about this issue?
I think people are concerned about coercion with voting, or like misrepresentation of.
I just hear mail-in votes fraud, but even Trump has never said, there's a big problem with. I think it would make more sense, because he says mail-in votes fraud, and some people don't understand the fraud thing because they can't picture it. But anyone can imagine very easily that certain couples are going to argue with each other and force each other to vote a certain way. Certain friends are going to force each other to vote a certain way, or get ostracized, and people are going to go around rounding up votes via intimidation. And that could happen in either direction. But we don't want intimidation. So I'd rather have stupid people voting at the ballot box than people going around intimidating each other, which is what happens with mail-ins.
Someone commented saying to me that smart people can also be evil and vote. Indeed. The problem is the evil smart people are going to the stupid people and trying to convince them all to vote to overwhelm the interests of the dutiful citizen. So there are a lot of people that want to vote. Let's go back in time. And they're small community, and they're voting on their interests. Then you get, let's put it this way, you get a town of 100 people. And a fat cat comes in and says, I want to drill for oil, but we're going to have to trench through your aquifer, which will destroy your town's water supply. And the people are like, well, we won't let you do that. That will destroy our town, and we all vote against you. And he gets mad. He says, okay, I got an idea. So the rich guy starts moving in low information people who don't know and don't care, and promising them free things. These people then voting against the interests of the people who live in this town. Eventually, there's 100 new people who just moved in. They don't know, they don't care. And the rich guy comes in and says, I'm going to give each of you $100 if you, as part of my initiative to build this company, I will buy you out. And they all go, wow, $100. That's a good idea. So then they vote for it. The original people who live there are shocked. Then he says, that's democracy. And the stupid people vote to have the water supply for the city destroyed. And then the town becomes a ghost town in 10 years. That you need people who are well-informed and understand what's going on to vote. You can't just say, well, smart people are evil. I doubt the person who lives, how come there are no supervillains, right? Like in the comic books, you got a supervillain, I'm going to blow up the earth. He wants to melt the ice caps and destroy everything because they live here. So the supervillains on this planet are actually trying to do things like gain access to resources so they can live more comfortable lives, not blow the planet up. But why not? Because they live here.
Not necessarily. You got miserable people that want more misery.
It is true, but they're few and far between. The people of means, like if you look at all the wealthiest people in the world, what do? They buy massive yachts, they buy private islands, they want to live in comfort, and they want control. Maybe they don't care if people die, but the more people they have under their control, the more things they get, the more luxury they can have. They can have Wagyu cows on their island or whatever, and then build an underground bunker. But you need people to do the work for you. So
I've been saying for a while that the whole tech situation, people don't understand. It's revenge of the nerds. These were people that were bullied the whole time in life, and now that they got power, they are supervillains in a way. But maybe I'm wrong.
I feel the darkness within me.
You might be a supervillain.
But what are they compelled to do because they were bullied? Like
bully the Trump voters and use whatever they can to beat the by and large. Let's be honest. There's a stereotype that Trump voters are, I don't know. There was even a girl at the DNC saying she likes Republicans. They're more attractive. They get more girls. They have more fun. Whatever people might say.
And now it's entertaining.
It's not true. And it's revenge of the nerds in tech. These are guys that by and large didn't have fun childhoods, and that's unfortunate. I don't like bullying. I don't like that these guys got bullied. But it's their moment in the sun, and they took their rage out on the Trump people through.
And so how does that manifest in voting? Trump will say we have to secure our border. We have to get a better trade agreement. That's the truth. And then the evil people will look at all the masses and say, I'll pay off your loans for you. And they go, cool, I don't care at all what Trump's talking about. Free money. And then they vote for the bad guy. Mm-hmm. So when stupid people are... That's why I'm saying the voting thing is not about trying to stop stupid people. That's not the point. The point is there has to be some effort involved where you decide you're going to vote. Universal mail-in voting breaks that down. And now you've got people going door to door and saying, hey, fill that out for me. And they go, oh, okay, I guess. And they don't even know what they're voting for or why. You've completely removed the process of voting from the voting process. Now it's literally just how many pieces of paper can you collect.
No, if I had nothing to do all day, I could walk around and round up, hundreds of votes if I wanted to through the mail-in system. But, I got other things to do. But there are people in life that, clearly don't have things to do all day, and they go and do that. So
the right is telling people the truth, and saying it's going to be hard, but we have to do this or we're in trouble. And the Democrats are saying they're lying to you. I'll pay off your loans. I'll give you free money. So stupid people just say, give me the free money. I don't care. But if you try to go to these people and say you realize that's going to cause hyperinflation, it's going to damage the economy, minimum wage increases result in layoffs and businesses closing, they just say, I don't care, man. They gave me free money. I went and bought a PlayStation. Okay, I guess.
You know, I'm going to defend it. I don't think there's as many of those people as you think. I think it's by and large with the mail-in votes, people that are just signing things. They don't know why they're signing them, you know?
Exactly.
And it's not even as much of it. You know, most people are actually pretty smart. Even like I run a manufacturing company, and I love being in the factories. I love factory workers. I don't hang out with business people. People always ask me who I know in the business world. I know almost nobody. But, you know, factory people are very bright, very intelligent. And, you know, I don't think there's so many of those people that are voting for the free money. I think it's by and large the issues of the mail-in votes. People are just signing, you know, here, sign this.
But that's exactly my point.
Okay, so we got the same point, but yeah, exactly.
Right. So Democrats can go to someone who has no idea what's going on and say, just fill it out. And they go, okay.
Yeah.
And then Trump supporters are desperately trying to say, our country is in trouble. And the Democrats are like, don't listen to them. They're Russian. They're liars. And the other people go, okay. And then you get these moderate podcaster types or these liberals on X too who've maintained this for a decade being like, both sides are bad. And then the Democrats say, but they're lying about everything.
How'd you get into what you do?
Me, you know, just my co-founder, 72 years old, and I saw this company called the Base Camp. It was a famous company at the time. Everyone wanted to like be like them, and I was just BSing about starting an internet company. And my co-founder moves really quickly. I BS with him. He never used a computer before, and he said, what the hell do people do on the internet? And I showed him, and believe it or not, you know, he's a brilliant guy. And he said, I went home, Anthony, and he came and saw me the next morning. He said, Anthony, I went home, I drank a bottle of vodka, and I decided we need to start a company together. He said, but you got to decide today if you want to do it or not.
Great way to make business decisions.
Yeah, he said, you got to decide today if you want to do it or not. And I said, I don't know, can I get a little while to think about it? He said word for word. He said, no, Anthony, you showed me the internet last night. You're 5 years too late. We got to get started right now. And so, you know, I agreed to do it. I didn't even know what we were going to sell. You know, just let's get a company started. And so, yeah, one of my number one principles in life ever since that, you know, is move quickly.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we had that conversation. We launched Sticker Mule 3 months later, and now it's 14 years later. We got 1,200 people.
How did you decide on stickers or like what you're doing?
We went to hire programmers. You know, it turns out they ended up being fairly, you know, they liked us at the time. I don't know if they still like me, if they're listening right now. They, you know, they're far left guys, but I really like them. But we went and found these programmers, and we said, geez, we want to hire you. We're going to start an internet company. And they said to me, the guy actually had a phone number on his website back then, and he got acquired by First Data for a lot of money. But he said to me, you know, what do you guys want to sell? We said, we don't know yet. And he said, well, what's your budget? We said, we don't know that. My co-founder, you know, you could tell he was older. He said, we've never been on the internet before, and we hope you could advise us as to what that would cost. And the guy said, listen, I don't mean to be weird, but the internet's hot right now, and I get a lot of weirdos calling. You guys sound like a bunch of weirdos, so I can't work with you. And the guy looked at me, my co-founder looked at me, and I said, well, we could spend $100,000. And he said, I'm in DC. You can come next week. And so I went and saw him next week, and I'll give him a lot of credit. He only charged me $50,000. He built the site, and I ended up stealing his 2 top developers. They came to work for me after that, but I think he still likes me. Hopefully he does. But anyways, we started. Yeah, we launched 3 months later, and he said, I want to work with you guys. I like you guys, but could you please figure out what the hell you want to sell? So. And
then you were just like.
We went home and we just started. You know, I like comedy and funny things, and I thought animals are funny, so I just word animal, whatever the case may be, and I don't know, ended up being Sticker Mule.
And then was it just a good overhead, stickers?
You know, it was fairly inexpensive to get into, you know, we did it, it was fairly inexpensive to get into stickers. We looked at buttons too, you know, it's like we looked at buttons, but yeah, it's fairly very inexpensive at the time to get into stickers. It still is, that's why there's a lot of competitors, but you know, most of them, you know, get dozens of orders a day, and we get a little bit more than a dozen orders a day, but yeah, you know, it was very inexpensive to get into, and then we got lucky. Some weird tech company stumbled upon us. I actually found them on Twitter, so I do owe Twitter a debt of gratitude. We found this massive company on Twitter, and they wanted to buy stickers. They were buying $500,000 $1 million worth of stickers a year. So this company ended up going bankrupt. I think they bought so much stickers from us. Yeah, it was wacky. They wanted to replace Nielsen, so there was a tech company called Get Glue, and they wanted to replace Nielsen's, and you would check in to say you watch a show, and you would win a sticker. And they started, and you know, it scaled so quickly. They went from shipping like 20 orders a day to like within a few months they were shipping out like 5,000 orders a day of stickers, and their annual spend shot up to like $1 million a year. And then they calmed it down around $500,000 a year, and they ran through all their money, and they went bankrupt. And they transferred us about a few $1 million in capital to fund the beginning of Sticker Mill. So I don't know where these guys are in life, but yeah, I owe them a debt of gratitude too. They funded our early years and paid for all our equipment and software developers and whatnot. And now we got 100 engineers, and yeah, we're doing a lot of cool things.
Did you guys look into doing NFTs?
People ask about that. I don't even know what the heck NFTs are. I don't even know what crypto is or any of this stuff. I didn't even know what social media was. Like,
I was gonna say,
I wouldn't go on social for the first 10 years.
The opposite of NFTs. NFTs are like
I mean,
in the
I guess,
internet, but you guys are actually ultimately producing a physical
yeah,
product.
we're printing things. Yeah, people want to turn NFTs into stickers, I guess. I don't know what these things are. I'm old school. Like, I'm like a guy from, I don't know, people say from, this is kind of why I like Trump. My co-founder's in his 80s. My dad had me very late in life. He died when I was 8, but, my dad would be over 100 if he was alive today. So I'm sort of, I don't know, an old school person. I don't really got a lot in common with most of the tech world and whatnot, which is, I think, why maybe I see the value in Trump that a lot of these guys don't necessarily see.
You could do like barcodes on your stickers, like a print run of 1,000 with unique barcodes, and each one gives
believe
you
it or not,
access
that's
to
a
an
top
NFT.
request. We never did sequential, whatever you call it, sequential numbering.
They're all fungible then, yeah.
Yeah, we don't do all that. One day we could do it if we wanted to invest the time to figure out how to do it. But our big thing right now, and like maybe we'll get you guys on at the end of the day, we got Daily Wire and Ben Shapiro and Don Jr. Mike Tyson's joining, and we got a stores platform now. So we built our whole company, 1,200 people. Just you come to us, you buy whatever you want, and we ship it out. But now anything you bought from us, you can sell through us. So you can have stores. We're in beta right now. 9,000 people launch stores. Our biggest seller is not Don Jr. It's a guy named Ricky Berwick, who I don't know if people know.
yeah,
him.
yeah, of
He's
course.
hysterical. He's coming to hang out with us this weekend.
Comedian.
Yeah, he's really funny. In fact, you're talking about breaking ground with Kamala being the first female, whatever. But I actually broke ground. I fired myself 2 weeks ago and made Ricky Berwick the CEO of Sticker Mill. So, I broke ground the first time. A disabled person from Canada. No, I think first time a disabled person was CEO of a major tech company. I guess I don't know if you can call us a major tech company. I do, but
It's very inclusive of you.
What is his disability?
I don't know what it is.
If it's private, I don't care.
He's
No, just watch his videos and
you'll get a look him up. I would say rather than me going and explaining it,
cool.
but you got to look him up. He's an incredible comedian. If you guys never met him, he's incredible to me, and he does all his jokes on the fly. In fact, I got in trouble he's been selling these R-word passes. I won't say the word anymore because I said it and I got in trouble. It's our #1 seller, R-word passes. You're not allowed to say that anymore. But that's his #1. Yeah, look him up right now. But
Does he do what?
he does all these skits, and he came and visited us, and he was banging out 5 skits a day, and he writes all the jokes himself, and he does all his own. He's hysterical on Twitter, replying to people and whatnot.
Oh, I know Ricky, dude. He's amazing.
Yeah, he's unbelievable.
That's awesome.
He's a really great comedian.
That's
and
awesome, dude.
Good he's a good actor too. He's giving me I never acted before. I never done any of this stuff before, so.
So what are you doing now that you're fired? Like you fired yourself?
Well, I got rehired. Now I guess we're co-CEO. We're going to take turns every other week. That actually was a tabloid star too because of this. Because I got fired, and people thought I really got fired. I mean, maybe I did really get fired. It's like
You have to ask yourself at some
I'm not sure. No one really knows, if I got fired, or if I didn't get fired. But yeah, the Sun, it was probably one of the funniest articles ever written about a tech company. Was me getting fired and replaced with Ricky Berwick. Believe it or not, I had this very far. He was a nice guy. I did a Spaces with him. I let him interview me live in front of whatever number of people wanted to hear it. And this liberal. Not that there's a problem with that, because I got I like all people, but he took it so seriously. He was just like he couldn't for the life of him understand it was a joke. Or why.
And was this after you sent the email saying like people shouldn't freak out at Trump supporters?
Yeah, I did that, and then Ricky came and fired me, and then we installed Ricky as the CEO, which was people thought, and then the Trump people got mad at me, and they said how they didn't get mad at me, they got mad at the company, they got mad at all my employees for firing me because how dare they fire a Trump supporting CEO, but I don't know, it was too funny not to do it, so it was.
Are you just on the board, like is the president of the board or something?
We made a video, and the video went sort of viral, like Ricky coming in on his wheelchair, and me getting fired, and he just came out with white label hot sauce. So yeah, he wheeled in to the thing, and his handler said, "Ricky, you just been fired, and they just fired Anthony Constantino, the CEO of Sticker Mill, and they voted you in as the new CEO. What do you want to do first?" And he looked at the thing and he said, "Name the fucking hot sauce after me." I'm sorry, I don't know if I could swear.
Yeah, well, that was a good joke.
And then yeah, we came out with white label hot sauce, Ricky Berwick sauce being our #1 seller. But maybe we'll get Tim Pool sauce soon. We got some of the other.
With the same company? Sticker Mill does.
Yeah, we make hot sauce. So yeah, this is we like comedy, so we started selling hot sauce. We got like we actually have one blind taste test against 270 other hot sauces.
I wish I'd known.
We started selling it as a joke. People said it would be funny if you sold hot sauce. I said it's only funny if it's the best one. So we got the internet's best hot sauce. It was called mule sauce, but now it's called whatever you want to call it. You can call it Ricky Berwick sauce or Tim Pool sauce or Don Jr. spicy sauce or whatever, Trump sauce, whatever you want to call it.
I need some Tim Pool sauce. I'll tell you
I
that
think
much.
so, yeah.
I wanted some hot sauce earlier today. Couldn't find any.
Can you make the sauce black and call it graphene sauce?
Not yet.
Then Ian would be.
But it's coming.
Let's jump to this story. Let's talk about tech. We've got this one from The Guardian. Yes, it sounds like a conspiracy theory, but maybe our phones really are listening to us. It's an opinion piece, but big brands already know far too much about us. Cox Media Group's active listening software adds a whole new layer of creepiness. So let me just, before I read this, do you guys think your phones are listening to you?
Yeah.
Of course.
So I went to the mall, and we were going to Zoomies. I needed to buy, I was picking up, what was I grabbing? I need to get bearings or something. And so it was closed, and it opened at 10. Or I opened it at like 11. And so it was like 10:50, and I'm like, eh. So Allison and I, we walked down to the end of the mall, and there's some table tennis, ping pong. And I'm like, oh, we did not say ping pong. I didn't say, hey, look, ping pong table. Let us play a game of ping pong or something. I just put my stuff down, and I was like, you want to play? And then we played. I cannot stop these ads from popping up incessantly on my Instagram now. And it's pissing me off because I could not care less about ping pong. So I keep having to flag it, being like, I don't want to see this. But it keeps sending me this stuff, and I'm like, how did it know?
Is it in your pocket?
Now you're going to get stickers and hot sauce for the next week because of this conversation.
Yeah. Dude, my TV. Like, the ads that come on YouTube TV, it's like, what? How do they know this stuff?
Was the phone in your pocket while you were playing?
Of course.
So it was measuring the way you were moving, and it was like, oh, he's definitely playing ping pong.
Yeah, maybe.
I
Or it's just listening to the... and it's like they're playing.
Or it knows that there's a ping pong table there, like it's tracking your location. I was on a trip with friends once, and we were in Florida, like doing whatever. My phone was plugged in a room upstairs, and we were talking about, we all grew up in New England, LL Bean duck boots, and they're just like an iconic thing. A lot of people wear them. We're talking about it for whatever reason. 20 minutes later, I go upstairs to get my phone. First ad is the LL Bean duck boot. No one had Googled it. We're just talking about it. But like, they're obviously listening to you. I just like that this person is being like, it sounds like kind of crazy, but it might be happening.
Well, look at this. They say 404 Media got a hold of a pitch deck from Cox Media Group touting its active listening software, which targets advertisements based on what people say near their device microphones. The presentation doesn't specify whether this voice data comes from smart TVs, speakers, smartphones, but the slide where it extols the power of voice has a picture of people looking at their phones. So, look at this. Google partner since 2023. Oh, no. Since the program's inception 11 years ago. Look at that. Amazon. CMG was Amazon Advertising's first ever media partner. And so, it's members only. But it looks like they're saying it's true. When 404 Media reported on active listening last year, CMG's website had the following deleted blurb. What would it mean if you could target potential clients who are actively discussing their needs for your services in their day-to-day conversations? No, it's not a Black Mirror episode. It's voice data. No, it's a Black Mirror episode. But, also whatever you're trying to create. Look, man, I feel like we know this stuff is real. About 10 years ago, I did a video report on, I think it was Apple. People don't get this. In order for your phone to have voice activation, it has to listen to you 24/7. So people have the phones where they'll like a voice, like you'll say a phrase, right? Like the Amazon device, you'll say its name and it turns on. In order for Amazon to translate what you say into commands, it sends it over the internet, translates it, and then sends the command back to the device, which means all devices have to always be listening to everything you say and waiting and sending it off to a third-party company to translate, who stores everything you say in data. And then once at any point the command phrase is translated,